California. It's a pretty strange place. Democrats seem to have an iron-fisted grip on political power there. But despite crime, drug abuse, homelessness, brownouts, wildfires, and a runaway budget, Republicans seem to have absolutely no prospects of taking back political power anytime soon. And with many overt leftists in charge, California seems to be the epicenter from which radical new ideas in this country propagate. So, as public opinion officials, we have a very special interest in what happens in California. And you should too. If you're a parent or you have children in your family, you should take a very close look at the results of the polls, because the policies that California is pushing that might someday affect you are absolutely not supported by Californian voters. To kick this video off, let's talk about children. Specifically, how equipped they are to handle the things that life has to throw at them. Californian likely voters largely think that young children are not equipped to make important life decisions. These numbers are cumulative, by the way. Only 4% of Californians think children under 8 can make important life decisions, and by 12 it's only 7%. Only 26% of Californians think children should make important life decisions at all. The party numbers show a bit of a difference, with Republicans much more strict about children under 12 making life decisions. Only 2% say yes, but for Democrats that number is only 10%. At the under age 18 level, it's 14% for Republicans, 19% for independents, but 36% for Democrats. So again, Democrats are much more willing to trust their children's judgment, but still only slightly more than a third of them. Now, it's important to get a baseline up front, which is why we asked this question now. But we asked this question about a few other specific and pretty uncomfortable topics, like at what age is it appropriate to remove a child's reproductive system? So if you're interested in those results and how they change public opinion, make sure you hang on till the end of the video. But this poll is specifically about the topic of parental rights in California. And we really want to thank our friends at Real Impact for sponsoring it. They're trying to make sure that parents are kept in the picture when it comes to sensitive topics like gender, and that's a pretty hot topic in California right now. Because this is a sponsored poll, you can click right on through at the links in the YouTube description to see the story and the full crosstab data. And while you're there, please like the video and subscribe to our channel, and make sure you check out Real Impact's site, which will also be in the description. 91% of California voters think that parents have a bigger responsibility for raising children, and only 3% say the government does, and 3% say their level of responsibility is about the same. Pretty much all demographics think this way. Even 89% of Democrats and 91% of independents say it's a parental responsibility, and even 84% of 18 to 39-year-olds and Biden's strong approvers say it's parents. 88% of California voters strongly support schools notifying parents if a child has a change in mental condition, and 73% strongly support it. And the party numbers are all so close that they're not even worth showing. In fact, more Democrats than Republicans at least somewhat support this practice. Things get a little trickier when gender is brought into the picture, but 69% of Californians support schools notifying parents if their child requests to be identified or treated as a different gender, and 55% strongly support the practice. Only 23% oppose, and only 16% oppose strongly. And again, it's not really a party thing. 72% of Republicans, 70% of independents, and 65% of Democrats support the practice, and only 17% of Democrats strongly oppose schools keeping a child's gender identity changes a secret. That's a pretty important number to understand a controversy like this. Only 17% of Democrats strongly oppose a school telling parents child gender identity information. And that absolutely seems like it's going on in California. Here's a headline: California school district accused of secretly counseling child to transition gender. We asked about this topic specifically in the poll, and it's dead on arrival in California. 24% of Californians support schools keeping this information secret from parents, but only 13% strongly. 68% oppose schools keeping secrets about a child's gender identity, and 55% strongly are opposed. Here are the party numbers, and again, it's pretty unanimous. 82% of Republicans oppose, 72% of independents, and even 58% of Democrats. Only 30% of Democrats support it. This new California bill would punish parents for abuse if they refuse to affirm their child's gender identity. Keep in mind, only 26% of California voters think anyone under 18 is equipped to make important life decisions. Only 28% of Californian voters think that parents refusing to acknowledge a child's gender identity choices is abuse, but 52% say it isn't abuse. That's a pretty strong and clear signal in the bluest, most highly LGBT populated state in the nation. Only 16% of Republicans say it's abuse, and independents say no over yes by 55% to 24%. Democrats are split at best, but only 37% of them think it's abuse. One has to wonder why bills like this get proposed, advanced, and voted into law in California when they do not reflect the will of the people. Why aren't Californian politicians representing the will of their voters? Who are they representing? Again, reaffirming that Californians very much believe that parental rights are sacrosanct, only 12% at least somewhat agree that a person loses their parental rights when a child enters public school, and 82% disagree, 69% strongly. And again, Republicans disagree strongest, but 80% of Democrats disagree, and 86% of independents. And this one is a Joe Biden quote. There is no such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all of our children. Only 29% of the perpetually blue Californian electorate agrees with Joe Biden, but 64% disagree, 48% strongly, and 56% of Democrats in California disagree with Joe Biden, and only 16% agree strongly. So Californians, by and large, strongly agree that a child is a parent's responsibility. They do not support teachers and school administrators counseling their children on gender identity, and presumably their children's sexual interests. And they don't think children are equipped to make important life decisions by themselves. Now, we've established that the kind of bills about this topic being kicked around in California don't represent the will of the electorate. But what kind of bill would? One that requires parents to be notified of any change in a child's physical, mental, or emotional health. 84% of Californian voters would support a bill like this, 66% strongly, and only 12% are at least somewhat opposed to a bill like that. Here are the party numbers, and although 89% of Republicans support this bill, 81% of California Democrats would support this bill as well, 58% strongly. And if that bill specifically included a clause that requires schools to notify parents about changes in a child's gender identity, then 62% of California voters would be more likely to support the bill, 46% of whom say much more likely, and only 19% say much less likely to support the bill. Again, it's pretty unanimous by party. 56% of Democrats say more likely, as do 65% of independents. If you ask me, it seems like Californian voters of all political affiliations are clamoring for legislation that keeps schools out of their children's sex lives, and furthermore guarantees them information rights about what happens in schools. If you think that's important information, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and help get the word out. And please click through to this story and the full poll results if you're interested in learning more about how Californian politicians aren't representing the will of parents in California. Now, as promised, although Californians don't think that children should be making important life decisions by themselves, there is a bit of a gender soft spot. It creates a cognitive dissonance in the results here that are almost palpable. And despite the fact that only 26% of Californians think children are equipped to make important life decisions, a cumulative 52% of them say that they're old enough to be taught that they can choose their own gender. That's kind of surprising. 38% outright say that children should never be taught that, and 10% aren't sure. And although half say they should be taught that they can choose their gender, only 18% say it should be taught to children under 12. Only 4% of Republicans think that as well, but 14% of independents and 30% of Democrats think children under 12 should be taught they can choose their gender. But only 15% of Democrats say it should be taught to children under 8, and only 43% of Democrats think children under 16 should be taught about gender identity. And only 10% of Republicans and 22% of independents agree. But what about actually being allowed by their parents, presumably, to choose their own gender? 32% of Californian voters say that children should never be allowed to choose their genders, and 8% aren't sure. But that leaves 60% who say they should be able to, even though only 26% say that children under 18 aren't mature enough to make their own life decisions. So it seems like roughly a third of Californian voters think that choosing your own gender isn't an important life decision. Now, at the 16-year-old level, 43% of Democrats say children should make their own decisions about their gender, but only 11% of Republicans and 23% of independents agree. But between 16 and 18 years old, Republicans pick up quite a bit. 45% of Republicans think that children under 18 should be able to pick their gender, but 52% of independents and a pretty stunning 72% of Democrats say yes. But here's where things get real irreversible. When asked by what age children should receive hormone replacement therapy that is accompanied by the risk of long-term sterilization. Yeah, we said that in the question. 47% say it's appropriate at below the age 18 level. Again, when only 26% of Californians said that children under 18 should make important life decisions. But only 10% of them say under age 12. This question really made the independents wave off. They poll like Republicans on this, and Democrats seem much more okay with potentially sterilizing children. 62% of them say it's appropriate under age 18, and a third say under 16, whereas only 6% of Republicans and 14% of independents agree. And irreversible gender-affirming surgery to include potentially removing reproductive organs, again, we said that in the question, is supported for children by 37% of Californian voters. Again, when only 26% say they're capable of making important life decisions. Only 11% say under age 16, however. By party, 48% of Democrats say under 18, but only 24% of Republicans and 30% of independents. But here are the numbers by Biden favorability, and 58% of Biden very favorables thought it was appropriate to remove sex organs from children under 18, and 25% said for children under 16. What is it about Joe Biden's strongest supporters that among all the demographics makes them most likely to want to irreversibly and invasively operate on the reproductive systems of minors? Post your theories in the YouTube comments, and while you're there, don't forget, again, to check out the full poll results, which will be in a link in the YouTube description. There was a lot we did not get to in this video. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Real Impact. If you think it's important to get this information out, check out their press release and their story at the link in the YouTube descriptions, and please help spread the word. And again, when you see the crosstab results, you're going to realize how packed this poll was. There were a ton of questions we didn't get to, and specifically a lot of demographic trends. Are these results a religion thing? Are they an age or a race thing? If you find something interesting, please drop it in the YouTube comments. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, and thanks for watching.